You keep failing, not because you're weak, not because you don't have talent. You keep failing because deep down, you're not being honest with yourself. You say you want success, but your habits don't match it. You say you want change, but you stay comfortable. You say you're ready, but every time it gets hard, you step back instead of stepping up. That's the truth. Failure is not your enemy. Confusion is not your problem. Your biggest problem is inconsistencies. Look at your life. You start strong, full of motivation, full of energy. Then what happens? You slow down, you get distracted, you make excuses, and then you quit. And now you're sitting there wondering, why does this keep happening to me? Let me tell you something straight. Life doesn't reward intentions. It rewards actions. You don't get success for what you plan. You get success for what you execute. That's why people like Steve Harvey always talk about discipline, because motivation fades, but discipline stays. You're failing because you're waiting to feel ready. You're failing because you only move when you feel motivated. And feelings, they change every single day. Winners don't rely on feelings. They rely on standards. They show up when they're tired. They show up when they're broke. They show up when nobody is watching. That's the difference. Right now, you have two choices. You can keep repeating the same cycle, start, stop, doubt, quit, over and over again. Or you can make a decision, a real one, not I'll try, not let's see what happens. A decision that says, no matter what it takes, I'm not quitting this time. Because listen, your future is not destroyed by one big failure. It's destroyed by small, daily excuses. Every time you say, I'll do it tomorrow, you push your dreams further away. So here's the question you need to answer. Are you tired of failing, or are you just tired of feeling like a failure? Because those are two different things. If you're truly tired, then prove it. Champ your habits, fix your discipline, show up daily, no matter what. That's how you break the cycle, that's how you win. And until you do that, nothing changes. You keep telling yourself a story that makes you feel better, but it's the same story that's keeping you stuck. You say you're trying your best. You say you just need more time. You say things aren't working because of circumstances, people, or bad luck. But if you strip all that away and look at your life with complete honesty, you'll see something different. You'll see inconsistency. You'll see procrastination. You'll see moments where you knew exactly what to do and still didn't do it. That's where the problem begins. It's not that you don't know the path. Most of the time, you already know. You know you should wake up earlier. You know you should stop wasting hours scrolling. You know you should put in more focused work. But instead of admitting that you're avoiding the hard things, you soften the truth. You tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow. You say, I'm just not ready yet. And slowly, that pattern becomes your identity. Real growth doesn't start with a new plan. It starts with brutal honesty. You have to be willing to look at your habits without excuses. If you wasted 3 hours today, say it clearly. I wasted 3 hours. If you skipped work you were supposed to do, own it. I didn't show up. That level of honesty hurts, but it also gives you power. Because once you stop lying to yourself, you finally see what needs to be fixed. People like Steve Harvey often talk about taking responsibility for your life, no matter how uncomfortable it is. And that's the part most people avoid. Responsibility means you can't blame your situation anymore. It means your results are connected to your actions directly. When you're not honest with yourself, you stay in control of a fake version of your life. You make plans based on who you wish you were, not who you actually are. And that gap between reality and illusion is where failure grows. You aim high, but your daily actions don't match. So you keep missing over and over again, and you start thinking something is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. What's wrong is the story you keep repeating. The moment you tell yourself the truth, everything shifts. You stop negotiating with excuses. You stop pretending effort is happening when it's not. You stop hiding behind comfort. Instead, you face your habits directly and start making real changes. Not perfect changes, but honest ones. And that's where progress begins, because honesty creates clarity. Clarity creates action. And action, repeated every day, is what finally breaks the cycle of failure. You keep waiting for that feeling to show up, the surge of energy, the sudden burst of inspiration that makes easy. You tell yourself, when I feel motivated, I'll go all in. But that feeling is unreliable. Some days it's there, most days it's not. And every time it disappears, your progress disappears with it. That's why you keep starting and stopping. That's why your results never stick. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the engine. If you build your life around motivation, you're building on something that changes with your mood, your sleep, your environment, even the weather. One bad day, one distraction, one moment of doubt, and you're off track again. But when you build discipline, you create a system that works whether you feel like it or not. You don't ask, do I feel ready? You say, this is what I do. That shift is everything. Look at people who consistently win. They're not waking up every day excited. They're not always inspired, but they've trained themselves to act anyway. That's why voices like Steve Harvey keep pushing the idea that you don't have to feel good to do what's required. You just have to do it. Over and over again until it becomes part of who you are. Right now, your pattern might look like this. You watch something inspiring, you feel fired up, you make a plan, you go hard for a few days, and then life hits. You get tired, you lose focus, the excitement fades, and because your system depends on that feeling, everything collapses. Then you wait again for motivation to come back, and the cycle repeats. Discipline breaks that cycle. Discipline says you work even when it's boring. You show up even when you're tired. You follow through even when nobody is watching and there's no immediate reward. It removes the emotional negotiation. There's no debate in your head. The decision is already made. This doesn't mean you never feel motivated again. It means you don't depend on it to move. Some days, motivation will give you an extra push, and that's great. But on the days it's gone, and there will be many, you still execute. That's where real growth happens. Building discipline starts small, but it has to be non-negotiable. You pick a few actions that matter, and you commit to doing them daily no matter what. Not perfectly, but consistently. You stop asking yourself how you feel about it. You replace, I don't feel like it, with I do it anyway. At first, it feels forced. It feels uncomfortable. But over time, it becomes automatic. And once that happens, your progress stops, depending on your emotions. It becomes stable, predictable, strong. And that's when things change. Because when discipline takes over, you don't just work on your goals, you become the kind of person who finishes what they start. You love the beginning because the beginning feels powerful. It feels clean, fresh, full of possibility. You make a plan, you set big goals, and for a moment, you feel unstoppable. That first day, maybe even the first few days, you go all in. You work hard, you stay focused, and you start believing this time will be different. But then something shifts. The excitement fades. The work gets repetitive. Results don't show up as fast as you expected. And slowly, without even realizing it, you start pulling back. That's where the pattern breaks you, because success is not built in the beginning. Anybody can start. Starting doesn't require much. It's driven by emotion, by inspiration, by that initial burst of energy. But finishing requires something deeper. It requires commitment when things are no longer exciting. It requires patience when progress is slow. It requires discipline when you'd rather do anything else. And that's the part you've been avoiding. You don't fail because you can't start. You fail because you don't stay. You walk away when things stop feeling good. You slow down when it gets uncomfortable. You leave the process before it has time to work. And then you start something new, chasing that same fresh energy again, thinking this time will fix everything. But it doesn't. It just repeats the cycle. People like Steve Harvey often talk about staying in the process long enough for your breakthrough to find you. And that's the truth most people don't want to hear. The breakthrough doesn't happen at the start. It happens after the boring days, after the frustrating weeks, after the moments where you feel like nothing is changing. Finishing is uncomfortable because it forces you to face yourself. There's no more excitement to hide behind, no more new plan to distract you. It's just you and the work. And if you're not used to that, it feels heavy. It feels slow. It feels like you're stuck. But that's not failure. That's the process doing its job. You have to understand this. Progress is not always visible. Just because you don't see results immediately doesn't mean nothing is happening. Every day you show up, you're building something. Skills, discipline, resilience. But when you quit too early, you cut that growth off before it can turn into results. That's why finishing matters so much. Finishing builds confidence. It proves to yourself that you can follow through. It changes your identity from someone who starts things to someone who completes them. And once that shift happens, everything else gets easier. You stop doubting yourself. You stop second-guessing your path. You trust your ability to stay. So the next time you feel that urge to quit, recognize it for what it is. It's not a sign to stop. It's a test to see if you're ready to grow. Don't run back to the comfort of a new beginning. Stay where you are. Push through the boring, the slow, the uncomfortable. Because that's where winners are made. You keep choosing what feels easy in the moment, and it's costing you everything that could make your life better. Comfort feels good right now. It asks nothing from you. No pressure, no struggle, no risk. You can sit back, relax, avoid the hard work, and convince yourself that you deserve this break. But here's the truth most people don't want to face. Comfort is not neutral. It's not just a place to rest. If you stay there too long, it becomes a trap. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you're making a silent decision to stay the same. Growth doesn't live in comfort. It lives in challenge. It lives in the moments where you feel stretched, where things are uncertain, where you're forced to do more than you think you can. That's where your skills develop. That's where your mindset gets stronger. That's where your life starts to change. But instead of stepping into that space, you step back. You choose what's familiar. You choose what's easy. And over time, that choice becomes a habit. You tell yourself you'll push harder later. You say you'll take things seriously tomorrow. But tomorrow turns into next week, next month, next year. And nothing changes. People like Steve Harvey often talk about getting comfortable being uncomfortable. That's not just a catchy line, it's a requirement. Because if you only operate when things feel good, you'll never reach the level where things actually get better. Comfort gives you short-term peace, but long-term regret. Growth gives you short-term discomfort, but long-term success. Right now, you're making decisions based on how you feel in the moment. You avoid the hard task because it's stressful. You delay the work because it feels overwhelming. You pick entertainment over effort because it's easier. And each of those choices feels small, almost harmless. But stacked together, day after day, they shape your life. You don't wake up one day and suddenly fail. You build failure slowly, through repeated comfort. The truth is, the life you want is on the other side of things you're currently avoiding. The early mornings, the focused work, the discipline when nobody is watching, the willingness to try, fail, and try again. None of that feels comfortable. But that's exactly why it matters. You have to start changing what you're willing to tolerate. Stop running from discomfort and start leaning into it. When something feels hard, don't take it as a sign to stop. Take it as a sign that you're exactly where you need to be, because every time you push through discomfort, you expand your limits. You prove to yourself that you can handle more. And once that becomes your standard, comfort loses its control over you. You don't need to eliminate comfort completely. You need to stop letting it make your decisions, because if you keep choosing easy, your life will stay hard. But if you start choosing hard, your life will eventually become easier in ways that actually matter. You've gotten very good at explaining why things didn't work out. Something goes wrong, and almost instantly, your mind starts building a story to protect you. You say you didn't have enough time. You say the conditions weren't right. You say other people made it harder. And in the moment, those reasons feel valid. They make you feel better. They take the pressure off. But here's the problem. Every excuse you accept keeps you exactly where you are. Excuses don't fix anything. They just make staying the same more comfortable. There's a difference between understanding what went wrong and avoiding responsibility for it. When you make excuses, you stop short of real reflection. You don't ask the hard questions. You don't look at what you could have done differently. You close the door too quickly, and because of that, nothing improves. The same problems show up again, and you respond the same way again. That's how failure becomes a pattern. Adjustments require honesty. They require you to say, yes, this was difficult, but what could I control? That question changes everything. It shifts your focus from blame to action. It forces you to look for solutions instead of comfort. And most importantly, it puts you back in control. People like Steve Harvey have built their message around ownership for a reason, because the moment you take responsibility, you gain the power to change. As long as the problem is always outside of you, the solution will always feel out of reach. Right now, you might be reacting instead of responding. Reacting is emotional. Something goes wrong and you immediately defend yourself. You justify why it wasn't your fault. You point to external factors, but responding is different. It's calm, it's intentional. It says, this didn't go the way I wanted. What needs to change next time? That's where growth lives. Adjustments are not about being perfect. They're about being aware. Maybe your plan was unrealistic. Maybe your focus wasn't strong enough. Maybe your environment is full of distractions. These are things you can change, but only if you stop hiding behind excuses long enough to see them clearly. The truth is, excuses feel easier because they don't demand action. They allow you to stay comfortable. They give you permission to try again later without actually improving anything. But adjustments force you to step up. They force you to do something different, even when it's uncomfortable. And that's exactly why they work. Every time you choose an adjustment over an excuse, you break the cycle a little more. You get sharper. You get more disciplined. You start solving problems instead of repeating them. And over time, those small changes add up to real progress. You don't need a perfect plan to move forward. You need a better response to what's not working. Stop explaining your situation and start improving it. Because the moment you replace excuses with adjustments, failure stops being a pattern and starts becoming a lesson that moves you ahead. You don't have a talent problem. You don't have a knowledge problem. You have a showing up problem. You show up when it's convenient. You show up when you feel good. You show up when motivation is high. And then you disappear the moment it gets uncomfortable, boring, or slow. That inconsistency is the reason your results keep resetting back to zero. Success doesn't come from what you do once in a while. It comes from what you do every single day. Right now, your effort is unpredictable. Some days you go all in, pushing hard, feeling like you're finally on track. Other days, you do nothing at all. That gap is where progress dies. Because every time you stop, you lose momentum. You lose focus. You lose the rhythm that was starting to build. And when you try to start again, it feels like you're beginning from scratch. That's exhausting. And it's unnecessary. People who win don't rely on bursts of effort. They rely on steady, repeated action. That's why voices like Steve Harvey always emphasize consistency. Not because it sounds good, but because it's the only thing that actually works over time. You've been treating your goals like something optional, like something you'll get to when everything else is handled. But the truth is, if it's optional, it will always be ignored. Life will always give you distractions. there will always be something easier to do. If you don't make your work a priority, it will keep getting pushed aside. Consistency requires a decision, a clear, non-negotiable standard that says, this is happening no matter what. Not perfectly, not at your best every day, but done every day. That means you show up when you're tired. You show up when you don't feel like it. You show up even when you know the work is going to be slow and frustrating. Because showing up is not about how you feel. It's about who you're becoming. When you start showing up daily, something powerful happens. The work becomes familiar, the resistance gets weaker, you stop overthinking every step because you've built a routine, and once that routine is in place, progress starts to stack without you even realizing it. But you have to earn that point in the beginning. Consistency feels hard because you're breaking old patterns. Your mind will try to pull you back into comfort. It will tell you to skip a day, to take a break, to wait until you feel better. And if you listen, you go right back to where you started. So you have to be stronger than that voice. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do something every single day that moves you forward. Even on your worst days, you show up. Even if it's small, it counts. Because small actions, repeated daily, turn into big results. This is where your life changes or stays the same. If you keep showing up inconsistently, failure will stay consistent. But if you flip that, if you make showing up a daily standard, then success becomes inevitable. Not fast, not easy, but certain.